everyone, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host, Travis McNeil, and today we hit number 57 on our list, counting down the best matches of 2020. Today's edition is a late addition to the list. It is the best of the Super Juniors 27 tournament finals between El Desperado and Hiromu Takahashi from the December 11th New Japan show. Now, obviously with COVID, this year's Best of the Super Juniors took a little bit of a backseat. Normally it would be held in the late spring, early summer. This year obviously held in the holiday season. It was also kind of shoehorned in there and combined with the tag league that New Japan does. Also different this year is it was a single block format, as opposed to the past, as long as I can remember, where it's been a dual block format. That has its advantages and disadvantages. One thing that I personally always kind of like about the single block format is it means that whatever your finals ends up being, it is a match that has already happened through the course of the tournament. And I think that gives a really cool opportunity to build some story and some heat going into that final match that you otherwise wouldn't necessarily get to have. So the history here between Desperado and Hiromu is storied. They both started out as young lions together. They both made excursions to Mexico around the same time. Both made their returns back to Japan around the same time. Hiromu obviously found amazing success as Time Bomb, whereas El Desperado, took the Suzuki-gun route and, maybe not as much success, we'll say that. Desperado's a guy that's solid, but, his matches are often, riddled with interference and things like that. So, they only hit a certain level. That said, his best performances by far in New Japan have been his matches with Takahashi. They did compete earlier in the tournament. It was a solid but not must-see match. But again, it planted the seeds of the story here, where El Desperado submitted Hiromu with his numero dos submission move, which is basically like a horse collar. That set up a story of Hiromu having a bad leg going into this match and needing to avoid that submission at all costs. They worked a longer match. This one runs about 35 minutes, which for Desperado is definitely not something we would normally see from him. But we're at a point where Hiromu Takahashi is just on a completely another level and can make, anybody look good, whether they have any God-given ability or not. And thankfully, Desperado has that talent behind the mask. So what they did here was just a basic story at its core of two rivals, one being a heel, one being a face. You have the work on the knee throughout. You have very early on Desperado exposing the turnbuckle, taking the cover off there and not getting used. The match builds and builds up to a phenomenal spot where after trying numero dos a few times, Desperado gets it and Hiromu somehow turns it into a Canadian destroyer, which I've never seen anything like that. It was pretty wild. But from there is when the match shifts and why it earned itself on this list. Not to say that what preceded this part was bad. It was, very good and very solid. But the match was taken to another level. They do a ref bump, again, common in Suzuki-gun matches. It leads to a spot where Hiromu starts to rip at the mask of Desperado. Again, going back to the lucha roots that those guys have on their excursions. He rips the mask so badly and exposes the majority of the face of Desperado. And then in one of the coolest spots I can remember seeing in quite some time, and certainly one of the best visuals I've seen. If you look at the thumbnail of this video, you'll see it. Desperado proceeds to remove his own mask by ripping it the rest of the way off, showing that he doesn't need that character. He doesn't need that gimmick. It's Hiromu. If he wants to beat him, he's going to have to put down his old rival from the Young Lion days. The intensity just ramps up huge. They go into a great finishing sequence where they actually use the exposed turnbuckle, which I thought was brilliant, because a lot of times when something like that's going to tie in later in the match, you see it teased throughout and throughout and throughout. But here they were really smart. It was used in the opening minutes of the match. It was completely forgotten about, not mentioned again, tied back into the finish. I thought it was awesome and I really appreciate it. You know, with the win, that leads Hiromu into Wrestle Kingdom. And with this match, I don't know how New Japan will capitalize on Desperado, but he showed to me that he can be an elite level junior heavyweight with this match, and I hope that's something that we continue to see from him. Please, as always, join us again tomorrow. We'll have match number 46 for you. Follow on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50, the word 50 spelled out, not numerical. Please share with your friends, provide feedback, like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, and we'll see you all tomorrow as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.